I'm Danamarie McNichol-Carter. I'm 22 years old. I am a broadcast and electronic media major graduating this Sunday, and I'm from San Diego, California. This project was all about a real-world experience. You know, getting as close as you can to going into the newsroom, visiting with the news director, picking a topic, expanding on that topic with the newsroom, then figuring out how you're going to make it come about. KHQ was an incredible resource. Tracy was awesome, and she totally embraced this project, was so excited about it, and right away, she's like, okay, she got about 6 or 7 members of KHQ to stop what they were doing in the middle of their news day and come in and do a mock brainstorm session. And she spent, I would say, 35 minutes, which is a lot of time in a newsroom. I totally understand. I did not expect any of this. And everyone was really, really willing to, help me with this topic. Part of the project was we had no idea what word we were given or what topic we were going to get. So I walked into her newsroom with an envelope with the secret word. So we sat down and I opened it and it was fake news. And everyone kind of was like, oh, that's really broad, which it is. And overdone, they kind of thought, just because fake news is, it's still a thing. And so I think they're just tired of dealing with it because they get people calling the newsroom, is this fake news? Is this not fake news? But they were also excited to craft a story with me to combat fake news. One thing that we decided to go over was we wrote down on the whiteboard was fact check the news, truth check the news. And so that was one of the topics that we jumped into right away for the story. Tracy came and was really excited about trying to expand, but then hone in that topic. Right away, she's like, okay, we need a certain specific audience. We needed a PAM, as you would call it. When Tracy came into our meeting, she had basically like a little pamphlet about who their target demographic was. And they called this woman, a mom, middle-aged, living in Spokane, a PAM, and that's who is watching the news. So they're trying to tailor a lot of their stories towards this audience. And so yes, there's fake news out there, but why does it matter to me? And mattering to Pam. So she was the one who said, okay, we're going to have to figure out a person for you to interview. That's the person you need to get. And then we were going to craft a story around that. I chose to interview Callie because right away he knew a lot about fake news and the data specifically behind it. And that's what I wanted to explore. Yeah, we know that fake news is out there. But what is proving that this fake news is still alive? And how is it being integrated into everyone's news feeds? And he knew right away what story he wanted to talk to me about. I mean, he had several. There's so many fake news stories that I didn't even realize. He showed us the Google Trends about it, how just in this specific week there's a huge jump. So right away I know he would be a very visual interviewee and someone who could speak so well on that subject. And who better to interview than someone who's dealing with it every single day. So that's why I chose to interview Callie specifically for my specific information to support Callie, the mother that I interviewed, the Pam. I think my reaction when I opened up that envelope was, I don't really know a lot about this topic. I know it's out there. I know it's everywhere. I know I was going to have a hard time to kind of narrow it down, and I was going to have a hard time to find a story about it. Because, yeah, there's fake news stories. They're out there, but how was I going to tailor around, why is that important to me? Who's, first I was thinking, okay, who's posting these? Is there anybody in Spokane that I can talk to that's posting these stories? There's also the monetary aspect behind it, the clickbait. People are getting money, advertising on these fake news websites. So for me, it was just kind of hard to narrow it down and try and find a good visual story. I wanted to leave the viewer with the notion that fake news is still out there. It's hard to distinguish between headlines because you have to read. You can't just see something and believe it. And then I wanted them to understand that the truth is out there. So my commitment statement was basically understanding fake news and how to combat that. And through Kelly and Callie, two people that experience fake news in a more professional setting and a more, relaxed setting, two different views, I think I accomplished that. Well, I know I wanted someone who was a mother, fit the Pam, and she did. And Corinne's older sister was very willing to do an interview with us, and I don't know a lot of moms in Spokane. I'm a college student, so it worked out really well. She was very willing, and she was very raw. Like, she's like, I understand that fake news is out there, and I'm aware of it, but at the same time, I'm not taking the time to fact check and verify every single story. And I think after speaking with me about it, she's even like, oh, yeah, these headlines are really deceiving. I didn't think that fake news was that prevalent still. And so doing all this research and listening to Kelly, who deals with it all the time, I thought it was really, really interesting. Another thing that came out right when I was crafting my story was the fact check filter that Google and Facebook were doing to combat this issue, which I thought was really interesting. I also learned that, yeah, that's a great effort. There's no way those fact check finders could even accomplish that goal. The story that Kelly had on his, the one that he took apart, you plug that into Google, there's nothing about that being false. So that's a huge discrepancy. Yes, Facebook and Google is doing all of this, but they can't. They're actually outsourcing to two different political websites. So that was really interesting to learn about how Facebook and Google are trying to combat this, but at the same time, they can't do it. There's millions of people. So I really liked how Kelly focused on it's the consumer. It's not Facebook and Google. He said in my package, at the end of the day, it's the consumer that has to change, has to look away, has to unfollow people that are just blindly retweeting, blindly sharing. And so I thought that was a really good kind of like, oh, yeah, we kind of have to. That's what we have to do. I think I would have wanted to get a millennial, someone who uses social media a little bit more consistently. Callie is busy. She's a mother. She doesn't necessarily use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those platforms. I get my news from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. So I would have added that perspective into my package just because I think I consume it a little bit differently, even though I'm not the target demographic. The target demographic kids could be that, I think that's one of the perspectives because I got I think I consider Kelly a more professional perspective, and then Callie is the mom. So I chose not to put a different perspective into this piece because when I was talking to Tracy about kind of like the whole idea of it, she was very focused on that Pam character, and so I didn't even consider adding a millennial. And looking back on it now, I wish I did, just because I think that could support Callie's argument even better. I think I accomplished my commitment statement pretty well because I gave the audience, I kind of took them through an article that it was fake, and I loved how Kelly was like, this quoted, this quoted, this quoted, this quoted. It showed how you can go deeper and deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole without even like realizing it. I thought that was really interesting. I think asking Callie about if she could distinguish between two headlines showed the viewer that, hey, it's not easy. Everyone kind of does it. A random mom can't even distinguish between two headlines. So that's making someone think, oh, I should probably look at that a little bit deeper. And then at the end, I like I said before, I think that the way that Kelly really emphasized the consumer and how it's the consumer culture. And that's what we have to do. We have to be truth finders of our own. And that's how he ended that package. And if anything, as a journalist, as an everyday person, as a consumer, we just have to keep looking for answers from different sources and not stop at the headlines, like you said.